Thank you everybody for joining in. Welcome to this webinar, and we are thrilled to have you here. My name is Rahul Kumar, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Today's topic is a pretty timely one. We will explore how young and growing companies like you guys can accelerate your transformation while simplifying complexity, reducing operational overhead, and but doing all of this without any compromise on performance. Today, we'll share some insights and strategies on how to manage your AWS infrastructure efficiently. We are joined by Ajay. I'm sure you guys can see him on the camera. He's a co-founder at Logicel and also the resident business expert on AWS. He'll share insights, real-world examples, and practical strategies that you can take back to your team, or some of the pretty quick ones you can execute and see for yourself right now. Before we dive in, here are a few housekeeping items that we should keep in mind. This session is being recorded as we just heard, and we'll be sharing the recording afterward. Please feel free to drop in any questions in the Q&A box or Q&A box throughout the session, and uh, we'll be sure to take those questions at the end of the session. With that, let's kick things off. Please join me in welcoming Ajay. Over to you, Ajay.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks everyone for joining in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for folks joining from different time zones. So we're here to discuss AWS costs and the drivers and how we can reduce it by up to 30% or even more in some cases, and without compromising on performance. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ajay Sharma. I am a co-founder, as Rahul introduced, of Logicel Solutions. Logicel is an offshore software development company based out of India with office in Canada as well. We have been into business for about 15 years now and have experience in helping startups and scaling businesses in turning their product ideas into reality. And not only building those products, but also making sure that they run efficiently on cloud. We are a certified AWS consulting partner and have been helping most of our customers manage their cloud infrastructure and also running cost and security related initiatives. I'm myself a certified AWS cloud practitioner, and lately over the last few years, our focus area as a team has been helping our customers in cloud and cloud cost initiatives in the cloud as well as security. Moving forward, so before we start discussing about AWS, let's take a moment to find out why this matters. Let's rewind back for about 20-25 years and see what was a life like of an entrepreneur who was starting out and trying to build a new product, a software product, it was a pretty normal thing that they had to buy their servers and manage them, and they had to have a dedicated team to manage their hardware as well. Now, all of those things today have become abstract, and it has given us so much freedom as startup entrepreneurs trying to execute our ideas, building POCs, MVPs. But imagine a scenario where, with not having right checks and balances, your bill shoots up. But when you receive it end of the month, you suddenly realize, what do I do now? Because I had limited budget as a startup, and now it's gone somewhere, which I was provisioning for doing my innovation and iterations to make sure I have a right MVP or right POC. So with those things keeping in mind, what we feel is this community, especially startups, but businesses in general also, need to be aware that there are certain best practices which are easy to do. It's just that you have to conscious about it. You can be in control and get empowered, and therefore unlock a lot of cost budget to do innovation. So in this webinar, what I intend to cover is some of the common concerns around AWS costs and its drivers, and some of the myths that we all think, as we adopt AWS. and how can we cut AWS cost, in whatever shape and size we are using it, to up to 30%, in some cases more also, without any performance loss. And a three-step optimization framework that we use when we help our customers, and we've done that like with quite a few of them. Uh, and also, I like to highlight some of the key metrics that should be tracked on a consistent and ongoing basis, to for executives and leaders to be able to have good control. And lastly, what are the actions you can take in the short term and the long term? So at the outset, I like to highlight, and I like to start with by saying the biggest AWS, or for that matter, cloud costs issues aren't technical. They are cultural, architectural, and visibility driven. Why I say that is because we have seen common patterns across many of our customers that teams aren't able to tell, which project or initiative a particular cost is associated to, in terms of AWS spend. Non-production environments are running 24/7. We have been part of an engagement where customer was pretty, conscious about cost, and he used to ask us, okay, run my environments only, as I use it, and then it should get auto turned off. So, but not all customers do that, and we generally advise them to do. So when no one is using it, your AWS non-production environment should be turned off. Storage is over provision in many cases. Sometimes while doing some analysis, you take backups and they are staying on the cloud, but they were temporary, but they stay there for forever. And teams are hesitant to commit to AWS saving plans because they lack, ability to forecast, and they feel uncertain about how much the usage would be. But a strategic mix of these things can really unlock huge potential. Some of the common concerns around AWS cost that are seen are pretty visible. Are difficulty attributing cloud spend to teams, projects, and products, as I said, over provisioning and underutilization of resources. EC2 and CloudWatch, for that matter, have been two major services that account for the most overspend. And if these two are looked at very in a close sense, we have a huge opportunity lying there. Navigating the complexity of AWS pricing models. So AWS has an array of services, more than 125, I believe, and they keep coming in. And so for newcomers trying to adopt AWS, they find difficult to navigate that complexity. Hesitation to commit to saving plans and reserve instances and spot instances, due to certain concerns in mind that, okay, I want my application running, full time and not without any downtime. This is for the leaders and some of the managers who are senior in the organization to drive cost-aware engineering culture. It practically doesn't exist. Cloud is an isolated section in the company, in the organization, and doesn't, becomes part of the culture in terms of how we have to be cost sensitive. So these concerns, they lead to certain risks. Let's review those risks. What the budget overruns. If we are not paying enough attention to these things, eventually you are running out of budget and it slows down innovation. You don't have enough budget to experiment, and then businesses in general need that space. But for startups especially, this is very important, very crucial to have enough budget to iterate and see what do our customers want and adapt our offering accordingly. So it's a big downside. Eventually leads to eroding profit margins. And so if we have board members or investors in our company, they'll be unhappy. This will lead to growing uneasiness between finance and tech teams, which leads to reactive justifications in many cases. All these things would eventually pile up pressure from leadership on tech teams. There will be a perception of tech teams not able to control cost, and eventually attributed as not in control. Excuse me. All of these things over time will lead to missed opportunities as we scale our product or a company, and where we could have saved potentially millions as well. So imagine the exact opposite of this. Imagine a scenario where you have a predictable, controllable AWS spend, wherein your infrastructure is scaling efficiently and securely, and you have a culture of continuous cost optimization. This like can be a financial, intelligence as an asset in your company, and you can be recognized, as cloud financial management excellence and a high performance cloud organization. This would be a dream scenario for all those, startup and small businesses who want to really save on their budgets to unlock some innovation budget. Some myths before I move on to how we can address these issues. Some myths that are prevalent. Cost optimization will lead to reduced performance. Now, that is a myth. Properly optimized resources often perform better than over-provisioned, resources. Reserve instances mean losing flexibility. In some cases, saving plans also. That's what we perceive. But now a strategic RI portfolio increases savings while maintaining good flexibility for us to be able to, make changes as we need, as we see our demand growing in. Cost optimization cannot be a one-time project. Every year, if we get together as a team for 1 week and see how we can reduce our cost, this wouldn't give you a lot of results. We have to approach it from a cultural point of view. It should be an ongoing activity. Our decision makers, our engineering teams, our DevOps teams have to own this in their day-to-day decision-making processes, day-to-day architecting activities. This should be tied in the whole process of how we approach our cloud. And if we are making those decisions with cost sensitivity in mind, and mind you, I don't mean here to save cost. We don't have to always go for a low cost solution. We are referring to an optimized approach wherein you get best of the performance, but at the same time, you're not wasting spend. So if we have to approach, there are 5 key areas, 5 key principles which can really help us, put this in a perspective how we can approach this. Look at our infrastructure and see where right sizing has to be done. We are often over provisioning. AWS itself says their average CPU utilization is around 6% across AWS customers. So imagine that's so low, there's a huge opportunity, and they recommend that we should be targeting about 70%. So right sizing of resources can lead to about $12,000 a year in average savings, depending upon what size of cloud infrastructure we are having. We've also seen 78% of SMBs lack monitoring. If you're not having enough visibility, enough control in trying to identify what is the spend linked to what initiative or what team, we would not be able to take any decisions of making any changes and improving. Imagine a scenario where your most important initiative is not costing as much as your least important initiative, and therefore once you have that visibility right there, you can take immediate actions and save a lot of cost. Again, adopting a right and appropriate savings plan strategy and reserve instances. Think of using spot instances. We have used that for many of our customers without any issue, being shown up in terms of performance. So AWS itself says you can save up to 72% in savings if we use this strategy. The only thing is we have to forecast appropriately, and we'll have to kind of adopt a right savings plan, which can give you a mix of, okay, this is for my on demand and this is my commitment for 1 year to AWS in terms of infrastructure. Try and audit your storage class and use appropriately your data, which is in form of your videos, files, documents, and all your assets. Industry data shows that 44% of storage classes are underutilized. and more than 80% of your data rarely is being accessed. I mean, it's not a frequently accessed. And imagine all of our data lying in, on-demand access storage classes. This can be pushed to infrequent access storage classes, to you know glacier or deep glacier archives kind of classes. We should think of, when we are planning our application solutions, think of using serverless and other managed services. This can lead to 80% of savings. And again, use the right tagging strategy to be able to have enough visibility, which can itself give you a lot of insights into taking some actionable decisions. I hope everyone is following, and feel free to post any questions in the chat box. We'll take up, and we will definitely attend to those. Moving forward, how we have been helping our customers. It has been a three-step approach. We start with audit. We start using AWS Explorer to get a macro view of their AWS spend, and then use Trusted Advisor for immediate recommendations. And then also we start tagging resources, because this is something we have to start now so that we can get it done over time. Then you begin with optimizing, and that says identify, eliminate, and eliminate idle zombie resources which is lying there. We have spun up some instances long back and never bothered to revisit them, and they are showing up in our AWS bill. So let's try to optimize those. Right size your top workloads. You can, with some experience, you can forecast your workload and right size your infrastructure according to them. Optimized storage classes, as we already discussed, and then sustain. Use correct an appropriate saving plan strategy based on your requirement, and opt for serverless services like Lambda, Aurora, DynamoDB. Set guardrails and some alerts through CloudWatch. You should be putting in, have logging system, but don't overuse it. CloudWatch is a service we should be using it very, very carefully. It can shoot up your bill, but at the same time, it gives you good insights to be able to be in control of your spend. Some of the key metrics as a business we should be tracking: cost per transaction. Industry standard says reduce up to $0.008 per transaction. Whatever your performance to cost ratio is, try to 2.5x that. CPU utilization, we should be aiming for 70%. Storage optimization, 80% of your data should be lying in correct tier. 60% of your workload should be under your appropriately chosen savings plan strategy. Elasticity, accuracy, your auto scaling strategy should be in plus minus tolerance of 10% of actual demand. Cost anomaly detection. Over time, you should be able to catch your 90% of the issues within 25 hours. Imagine a scenario where loosely a vulnerability can shoot up your budget to several hundred thousand grands because you don't have enough alerts and logs in the system. Forecasting over time should be able to be in with the range of 15% of actual.
So Ajay, if you don't mind, and if you can go back to the previous one, I think if every one of us can really look at this slide, go back and look at your infrastructure, compare where you are against your against these benchmarks, that kind of is a ready reckoner for you to look at what your strategy would be in terms of AWS optimization.
Yeah, I would not exactly say these should be the benchmark. These are reference points in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Everything might not directly apply to every
Fair.
business because they are from different industries, different. So, for example, an e-commerce product would be different from a subscriber-based SaaS product, and their benchmarks would be a little different. But this is something to think of in terms of direction. We should not be stuck on these numbers very strictly. Some more research can be done to identify what fits best in our particular industry. That would be my response.
Fair. Fair. Thank you.
No problem. So, I'd like to share a couple of success stories that we've been part of amongst many in our customers. And there was a growing CRM platform that had a challenge of very bloating S3 they had provisioned, and some of the other over provisioned resources because they wanted to have a disaster recovery infrastructure in place. And then we were asked to reduce some budget, and what the approach we followed was choosing appropriate storage classes for their S3 uh, objects, and all we tried to analyze what kind of media assets are there, what are the usage pattern, and then they were put into the right buckets, right storage classes. Also moved from conventional RDS to serverless Aurora, which was a managed service, and you can use it at pay as you go. And then right up to storage savings plan strategy was adopted. This unlocked $10,000 of per month of budget, which eventually we also used part of it in another several initiatives that we took with the customer. And this all was done with all performance analysis met. Another story with analytics platform that we have been working with was they had a fixed capacity, data warehouse cost, which was very high, and they had their ETL resources running 24/7, and there were performance bottlenecks. We moved to serverless Redshift architecture. We right-sized their Aurora database and optimized few of the queries, and this resulted into 35% of spend being saved, and performance gotten better, and more frequent analytics were brought in. There are many of those case studies, but if we have to think of how we should be approaching these initiatives, if in the short term, in the next 30 days, what I would recommend is start implementing a comprehensive resource tagging strategy. This will give you empowerment to be able to track what is happening where. And once you have that, you will feel confident of taking any actions within your AWS infrastructure and would not be nervous of changing few things. What if this happens? What if that happens? Right size, as a next step, right size your top 10 most expensive EC2 instances. This will give you a lot of room in budget. And then review and optimize your storage classes, as I have previously mentioned. These are low-hanging fruits, will give you immediate results. And then in the long term, we should develop and implement an appropriately thought of savings plan and reserve instance strategy. We should evaluate workloads for containerization and serverless migration. This is a more deeper discussion has to happen with application architects and how we approach a particular solution. And then this is for seniors and executives and leaders to drive a AWS cost-aware culture across teams. It should not be a responsibility of only a one person or one single team. It should be a collective effort. It should be part of our conversation regularly. Uh, and once that happens, the decision making automatically happens in the direction of ongoing optimization. I understand this whole thing might be overwhelming for many, and we might think, okay, what I can do when I get home today. There can be one thing if you have to do now today, that would be run your cost explorer in your AWS console in billing and cost management section, and try and view your top 5 cost drivers. Turn on your AWS Trusted Advisor cost recommendation, and it'll give you immediate things that we can do, and even AWS can help you do. So yeah, this would be an immediate thing you can take out of this webinar, but uh, uh, and rest of the things can be done, in a short, medium term, and long term. I hope this would be end of it. I hope this gives you enough insights, every one of you, to take some actionable decisions with your AWS cloud infrastructure. We'll be happy to have any questions. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you, Ajay. Yeah, and the last slide was very interesting. At least gives us and the attendees some quick things to do to see where each one of us stand today and if there is a need for an optimization or not. Right. But thank you, Ajay. This was very interesting. The session. My key learning was that this whole AWS cost optimization is really a strategy rather than a point in time exercise. So I'm sure a few of you will love to look at your instances just to get a mind check of where you guys are. But let's move on. Let's move on to the questions. I think we have quite a few questions, so let's take three or four of them. Uh, the first question, I'll read it out for you, Ajay. Uh, we are a SaaS startup running three parallel environments: dev, staging, and I'm assuming production, mostly on EC2 and RDS. Our monthly AWS bill is around $6,000 and going up. What one action would you recommend we take this week to find meaningful savings?
Yeah, so I would, apart from looking at, as I mentioned, the AWS Cost Explorer to have visibility in your top 5 drivers, I would say make sure all your non-production environments are not running 24/7. This is a mistake that happens often with many. Uh, there's no point using those environments which are not customer facing for 24 hours. You can put in a mechanism wherein you can initiate those environments when you're trying to use that, and then they automatically turn off when they're inactive, after 10 minutes, say. And this can itself, on an autopilot mode, save you a lot of money. If that could be one action point.
Thank you, Ajay. I hope that answers that question. If there's a follow-up, please feel free to ask. Let's move on to the second one. And I find this interesting. How does the cost optimization strategy differ for startups versus established enterprises that use cloud platforms like AWS?
Yeah, so very good question. And interestingly, we have to understand the behavior pattern and how decision making works. So in startups, a founder is wearing many hats, and oftentimes he is dependent on their development partners also, but he's the final decision maker. But in some of the scaled businesses and maybe bigger businesses as well, you have a dedicated engineering function who's responsible for it, and it doesn't come to CEO. So for a business, established business, this would be a cultural thing, a long-term thing. Of course, you can always, go to the short-term and medium-term and long-term measures. But for startups, it has to be going immediately and trying to, get into your AWS cloud infrastructure and, see your cost drivers from AWS Cost Explorer, run that. Tagging strategy can still come later. Make sure your non-production environments are not running 24/7. If your volume is enough and your workload is enough, try and optimize or right size your EC2 instances. Have your development partners involve serverless use cases in your application planning. So primarily, this is the difference I see. In engineering functions, technology leaders will drive this, in their as their own initiative, but founder will have to, use this consciously as an initiative amongst many others that he has to do. But yeah, once this is done, it has given it, a little bit of attention. You can get good dividends, over time. That will be my answer. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you, Ajay. I think that should suffice. Uh, I'll take one more question. I know there are a few more, but in the interest of time, I'll take one more. What are the most common mistakes you see organizations making when they're attempting to do this kind of an optimization from a cost standpoint?
The most common mistake is taking it as one-time initiative, as I mentioned in my well, that one fine day, they feel, oh, this bill is so high, let's do a cost audit and drive the cost down, maybe twice a year max. My appeal to them would be, it is a reactive approach. We should be proactive. We should try and build this in a culture where decisions are made, with cost, uh, keeping in mind, and then it should be an ongoing activity, and it doesn't take much. It is all about putting certain reminders, putting certain mechanisms in place wherein you are, 30 minutes of meeting every month would not cost a lot, but would save a lot. And then it will put everyone accountable, and ownership will start building up amongst not only the leadership, not only the executives, but also the teams that are using AWS. That is the ideal scenario, and I would recommend that we should be not victim of a reactive approach, but rather be proactive here.
No, thank you. Yeah, and I think let's close off this call on that note. Thank you, Ajay. We really hope that you intend to get proactive in this space and find out areas that can be optimized better for your organization, and especially because a lot of you are from the startup ecosystem. I think that will make a lot of difference to you, because we all know as startups, resources are always a bigger crunch than any enterprise would have. But thank you again. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day and a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Take
for your
care. Bye
time.
bye.